Tell me if this experience sounds familiar. You miss guitar practice for a few days, maybe a week, maybe a month for reasons. I don't know. You were busy at work, you went on holiday, maybe you injured yourself, but now you feel bad because you didn't do the practice that you think you should have done. Welcome to Guitar Nutrition. My name's Matt. Today, I want to share a few ideas that will help you reframe this problem and actually get you feeling better about what it is that you are doing. This is a conversation I have with a whole heap of students fairly frequently because they arrive at their lesson and tell me that they're annoyed at themselves because they didn't get their practice done. And when I ask about what they had on, they had a busy week. This is also something that I've experienced myself recently because I injured my wrist. Can't really play guitar super well. Someone decided to try and cut me off on my motorcycle and crashed into me. I thought I was fine. I got up and, shook it off. But a week later, my wrist was still sore and I went to the hand therapist. She told me I had to wear this thing. I've graduated to a less invasive one, but let's just look at this for a sec. I had to wear this thing for 6 weeks. Do you know how hard it is to play guitar with this on? It's impossible. Let me show you. I couldn't rotate very much. I was sitting in this kind of crazy awkward position and my reach was somewhat limited and it was kind of sore to move my wrist. Thankfully, I graduated from that one. And now I've got this little number, which I've had on for another 4 weeks. This is like 10 weeks off being able to play guitar. I can kind of play guitar with this on. I'm back to like 80% of being able to play guitar with this on, but it's still not super ideal. Now, before getting injured, I was actually on a pretty good practice streak of practicing every day. And so after the accident, I was like, I'll keep practicing. I'll do what I can, just take it a bit lighter. Then I saw the hand therapist. She told me I had to wear this thing all the time, basically. And I was like, you know what? I will still keep practicing. I can get some stuff done, right? Maybe focus a bit more on my right hand technique or just do a little bit of left hand stuff. And I did that for a few days, but it was really depressing not being able to move properly. And then part of me was like, am I moving it too far? Like, I don't want to make it worse. I want it to get better. So I basically just stopped practicing for 10 weeks. Thankfully, I was still kind of able to move it enough to kind of demonstrate things if I needed to, but it was not ideal. So what do you do when you can't play for that length of time? It's really easy to get depressed and demotivated about it, but what I often tell my students is that it really comes down to the time frame with which you're looking at your practice. If the time frame is an hour, then I haven't really done much practice in the last hour. In fact, I haven't done any. In fact, I haven't done any practice probably in the last 24 hours. So that's terrible, right? That's not good at all. So let's increase that time frame. What if it's the last week? But I also haven't done much practice in the last week because of obvious reasons. So that doesn't look good either. If we increase it to a month, I haven't done much practice in the last month because, obvious reasons. But if our time frame is a month and we're kind of like looking at the period of the year, I've had a pretty solid year with practice. Sure, I haven't been able to do much in the last couple of months, but year is 12 months long. Maybe I'm out of action for 2 or 3 of those. That's still 9 months worth of practice that I got in. That's what, like 75% success rate with practice? That's pretty solid. And when you look at it like that, all of a sudden you don't have to feel so bad about the fact that you haven't been practicing. We could apply the same thing to like a week, right? This is what happens more with a bunch of my students. They come in and they're like, I didn't practice as much as I wanted to this week. When we figure out I've been busy and stuff, it's like, okay, well, there's 7 days in a week. You got 3 or 4 of those in. That's still more than 50%. That's like a good chunk. Or maybe they get frustrated because they've had 2 weeks and they haven't practiced a lot because there's been a lot on. It's like, okay, well, what about the last 3 months? If you look at the last 3 months, if you look at how many weeks you've practiced in the last 3 months, what's 2 weeks here or 2 weeks there that you haven't been able to do much in? On that time frame, you're actually looking pretty solid. You've been practicing for 80% of that time. When you're feeling depressed about the fact that you haven't been doing practice or whatever, think about the time frame that you're looking at. In my case, there's a legitimate reason why I haven't been able to play guitar for the last several months. And that's fine. I've still had a pretty solid year of practice. But if those months turned into more months, then it starts to become a problem, right? Especially if there's no reason for it. Same thing with smaller time frames, right? If one day turns into 2 days, turns into 3 days, and now it's 4 days, but actually you probably could have practiced on that day, then you can start to look at it and be like, okay, maybe I need to reassess how I'm approaching my practice. Same with weeks. Like if you've had a couple of busy weeks, doesn't matter. But if a couple of weeks turns into like a month, then maybe you got to look at how you're doing your practice. We don't need to be so hard on ourselves when we have to take a break because stuff comes up and we get busy or we injure our wrists. And you know what? It's actually not the end of the world if you have to take some time off anyway. You're not going to lose your skills. Sure, you'll get a bit rusty and rough around the edges for the stuff that you've most recently been working on. But the things that you're fluent at, you're not going to lose that. Remember, music is like a language. And maybe if you don't speak your second language for a while, you kind of get a bit rusty with it. You want to be immersed. But your native language, the one that you're most fluent with, like I don't think I've ever heard any stories of people forgetting how to speak their native language because they lived in another country for a few years. Like that's not really a thing that happens. Once you're fluent with something, it's pretty much locked in. And that's the same thing with our guitar playing. If you've been playing for a while, think about how comfortable you are with basic open chords like E, A. There is no chance that I forget those, even if I haven't played in a while. But some of the tricky stuff I was working on before I stopped playing for ages, yeah, that's a bit rusty. That's, going to take me a few weeks maybe to get back to where I was at before I stopped playing. And then there's factors like I lost all the calluses on my fingers. I was teaching a student yesterday. We were working on some acoustic stuff. And, playing the guitar for most of an hour, on and off. I was sitting there like, man, I'm gonna have like sore fingers a little bit. Not enough that you can't just suck it up and keep going, but I was like, wow, that's gonna have to develop those calluses again. I also don't think it's a good idea to go from not doing any practice to getting back into doing several hours a day in one go. And in my case, I want to kind of ease into it because my hands still, I don't quite have 100% of my like movement back. So I'm just gonna start light. Do a little bit of practice. Get back into it with some gentle exercises. My tempo is not going to be too intense. And I'm just going to work on some easy stuff. I've actually been meaning to learn all of the rock school songs from the new syllabus because I want to make some videos on them for this channel. And so I was like, that's a great way for me to get back into playing guitar. I'll start playing some really easy pieces and learn those. Kill two birds with one stone. Get my hand moving again and learn the pieces so that easier to perform when it comes to making those videos. So the key takeaway that I want you to get out of this is don't beat yourself up if you have to take time off practicing. If things come up, you get busy, maybe you get sick or injured, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is just kind of broaden the time frame and say, oh, actually this year I have been really solid with practice. Last couple of months, not great. But over the course of the year, 75% practice rate, pretty solid. You can feel good about that. And remember, if you do take some time off, you're not going to lose all of your skills. The level of fluency you've built with things will stay there. Yes, you're going to be a little bit rusty when you get back into playing, You brush the cobwebs off, you'll be right back where you were in no time. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had any time off, or is this something that you've struggled with before? Kind of reframing how you view your practice? Let me know. YouTube thinks you might want to check out this video. Otherwise, go play some guitar, and I'll see you next time.